into the deep diving through the breakthrough of silence. And like, why do people stay silent? Why do people take a deep sleep dive into music in their times of silence? Into chanting, into meditation. I mean, and what exactly is a deep woken when it comes to a deep dive into your consciousness of what exactly is there? So, is the deep meditation, the deep sleep, deep, anything deep within the core of the workout of your meditation within your mind, is that simply shutting off? I mean, it's shutting off the silence within yourself of things that don't make sense. And so I've always called this a deep self-censorship. I mean, it's a self-censorship, but it's teaching ourselves how to be, it's teaching ourselves how to be, um, how to self-censor ourselves, to be quiet. And I'm finding this coming out of all the spiritual realms related to a deep cleansing of, okay, so we go into ourselves and we reflect, we shut off and go into a silence. But then sometimes it just feels like there's a huge wave, like a secondary and third wave of, my gosh, I have so much I want to say. I have so much I want to say, but I've been deep within myself, but I've been withholding. I've not been saying what I really need to say, what's truly on my mind. And so we do this in marriages too. So when you're with a partner and you don't want to raise a fuss and you feel like they're in control, so for a lot of times for women, she'll have a husband, and the husband is who controls all the money and everything. And then the wife has a hard time saying things to him because out of fear, she's afraid that he's going to turn on her because of how things are right now, because we're so connected, how things are right now. We are so connected with the internet, and she's afraid that he doesn't actually care about her. Women need reassurance that the man is going to stay with her. In a deep, long-lasting marriage, a woman needs reassurance from her partner. Even though they've gotten into a fight, she still needs reassurance that he's going to be there for her, not just a fly by the night guy who is just coming in. She needs deep reassurance in a loving relationship that he's going to be there through thick and thin, and that he's not there just for some ulterior motive of something. That he, even though he's the one who's bringing the breadwinner and he's bringing in all the money and everything, and she has absolutely nothing, it's not her fault. Now, women do get blamed. And I know I'm called a woman, female empathizer and sympathizer and a lefty liberal and all kinds of terrible names. I have been called that my whole adult life. But I've been thinking about this very viciously and with some deep thought. It's like, well, where are the men who are actually attorneys who are willing to put themselves in the side of a female to have a full understanding? So how can a female get full representation from a male attorney if he can't actually sympathize on the side of a female in that deep and loving understanding? And when I say loving, I don't mean in a sense of something corrupt. I just mean from human being to human being, where a man is going to say, okay, if this was my wife or if this was my sister, I would not want that to happen. In a deep, deep understanding and relationship between men and women, can a man fully put himself in the mindset of a female to understand how exposed and how vulnerable that she is in marriage when she has absolutely no money? Most people don't think about this when they're first getting married. They just do not think about any of that stuff when you're 19 years old, getting married, you're teenagers, maybe you're expecting a baby. It happens to everybody. I'm just going to clarify that over and over again. It happens to everybody. It's a big hidden secret. I think everybody's knowing that more and more now, that there's women who have babies all the time. There's nothing wrong with them. It's normal. It happens. It happens. It happens. And so, in a deep, loving understanding, if you're going to be an equal thought process of an attorney. This is the thing I beg of attorneys. I'm not an attorney. I've been told nobody's really told me anything about what kind of attorney I would make if I was one. I always thought I would have might have found it interesting, but I never had the money to go to law school ever. So that was just outside of the scope of my realm. I couldn't afford Harvard. I couldn't afford law school. But this is the challenge I have for men. This is the challenge I have for them. Could they put themselves in the shoes of a woman? Not being playful. I mean seriously, in the sense of, you're in that marriage and that woman is fully exposed because you're the breadwinner. So instead of getting angry at the woman, instead of getting angry at her as a husband, can you say, this is a human being and I wouldn't want that to happen to my daughter? Because the thing is you are treating someone else's daughter as poorly as you're treating your wife in that marriage. And this is the challenge for me, related to having a military and a JAG Corps and people who are in the military who, it's mostly men, and they can't put themselves in the shoes of being a woman. So what exactly is equality in the United States military? That's one thing I would like to ask. What exactly is equality in the United States military? Because they're hounding right now about, well, we don't want to be same gender. It's like, nobody's asking you. Nobody has ever asked you to be same gender. The only thing that people on the internet have expressed is the fact that Hollywood plays this game. Nobody's ever asked military to be same gender. It's just that when you put in all these boys, these young men, they're not boys, even when they're 16 years old and you enlist them into the military and you pay them a paycheck, they're boys at that point. And so how can you expect the young men? This is the young men that Ronald Reagan talked about when they go to war and they die. They've given up two lives. They've given up their life and they've given up a future life. Now, these young men who go in, how can you ask them to represent America when they've never been married before? They've never had children before. How can you ask men to represent a woman when they've never been a woman before? This is what I beg of our United States military, to have an understanding and compassion of this, instead of lashing out at women under the Bible of the old scriptures and saying that he wants to have a concubine and 5,000 women. And there's men to this day quoting this garbage on the internet. American men who are quoting this garbage on the internet out of the Bible. And to me, it's like, how can you be an attorney? How can you be in the United States military and fully represent a woman on the homeland when you've never been a woman? And I'm going to keep asking this over and over again. They've never been a woman. Women are not equal in the United States military. Women have been abused being in the United States military. So I'm going to keep asking these questions over and over and over again, because it actually makes me feel a whole lot fucking better to ask these questions, because of the fact that men are hounding and griping about, well, we don't want to be gay. We don't like the same gender. It's like, well, women in the same sense don't like the fact that we have inflation, and you just throw women out high and dry. So when the military is done, when men are done with women, they tend to just throw them out high and dry and just think, oh, well, the government's going to take care of them. And that is absolutely not true. The government doesn't even take care of kids who need help. You're going to have soldiers who are getting out after their 20 years. Probably every day. There's a soldier who's getting out of the military, who's chaptering out, retiring. He's at his ETS, and him and his family and kids are met with, okay, now he has a reduction in pay. He gets out, he goes on and he tries to find something to take care of his family. His marriage was great. Now all of a sudden, he's yelling at his wife every day, yelling at her every day to go get a job, and they're in some bumfuck shithole out in the middle of nowhere, and there's no job opportunities for her. for her, and he can't make ends meet. Well, that marriage ain't gonna last very long. I mean, because he's gonna use the excuse and the VA thing, and it's like, well, I went to war. I was over in this war. They're using it as an excuse because if they have inclinations to be shitty now, they were doing it before. It didn't just happen. They were being shitty before, and his wife was just staying silent. She was just adapting because maybe she had a husband like my first husband who was in the military, and he was always telling me, he's like, if you call the police on me, you're going to have to go live with mommy and daddy. And I had no idea what he was talking about. Um, what's your favorite color? And so yeah, so I was just, this is an interesting topic to talk about related to the deep thinking of the mindset of and psychology of how things work and how human beings work, how human beings are influenced, be that in the network. And I know people don't like to address this monster, but in the United States military, it is a network. It's a network of men. It's a network of men. You guys can be angry at me all you want. I don't care. I really don't care. I just don't. I mean, because the thing I think about is like, you don't want to hear the truth. That's what it really feels like. Men in the military and men in leadership positions do not want to hear the truth. They just don't. They want to control everything, including women, and it's like I call it Sharia law. When I see a spade, I call a spade a spade, you know. And we can play word semantic games all day long, like a spade is in a shovel or a spade and when you're playing cards or blackjack, whatever that is, whatever game that is. We can play the word semantics all day long. But at the same time, that covers up the truth. Do you want the truth on the internet or do you not want the truth on the internet? That's what I'm asking. Instead of playing these stupid clickbait games, because they are stupid. It's really stupid. It just sends people off on a wild goose chase. People chasing clicks and likes, just trying to get views and things like that. No, only a few people benefit, because when you look at YouTube and you can count and you can look at the mechanism of how it works, and it's usually about the top 10. And that's the same thing with the networks and those people out of Hollywood and whoever figures it out, who has the networks and who has the most money and the ties, and they figured out how it works. And then it's like people are always left behind. And it's like, well, where's a fair distribution of money in that? Because that's what a lot of them are always hollering about related to fair distribution of wealth. And YouTube and the search engines actually expose the lack of a fair distribution of wealth. They do. And so I think right now I'm going to end this and we're going to have more conversations in the future. Okay, so before I go, let me mention the four folks who were in here. Black Ops, Elijah, Zom, PJ, and Clowny. What's my favorite color, though? Honey, he called me Honey. Honey Boo. Oh, you want to talk about Honey Boo Boo? I've kind of felt bad for June. I really did. I felt bad for the fact that people were making fun of her just because of her weight. I thought she was funny and personable. I liked her daughter Alana. And the show was fun while it lasted, but it had a really weird twist because I don't know why Honey Boo Boo's mom June got involved with the guy that she did. He was like some illegal guy or something like that, and she was living right next to a gas station or something like that. She was just famous for being famous, kind of like the Kardashians. She was just famous for being famous, and that's what most people who are famous are. They're just famous for being famous. You can say the same thing for celebrities as well. They're just famous for being famous. There's nothing special about them at all. I mean, so a lot of people like to call themselves entertainers. They're not. They're just famous for being famous. There's absolutely nothing special about them at all. They are allowing themselves to be exploited into the realm of I mean, this is what I weigh. in my mind, this is what I weigh. I look at our United States military. They are at the bottom. They do make money. They do get cost of living raises, but they are at the bottom. Then I look at our celebrities and our politicians. Now the celebrities do make a lot more money than the politicians because the politicians are on the much larger scale of making $174,000 a year, but that still does not make them rich, I don't believe, because a lot of that money that they make probably has to go into expenses related to their political career. That's what I'm thinking. They're going to have to, so living in Washington D.C. is very, very expensive. They said most people who are politicians, maybe I should make a new video about this, but what I've learned is most people who are politicians do not want to live in Washington, D.C. But what they've been saying is they live in their offices right now, and so they're just living off the government for free inside of offices inside of the Capitol building because they have put in showers and a little room for them to sleep inside of the Capitol building. So they're not even actually renting apartments in Washington, D.C. right now. They're just living inside of their little cubicle office space that they have inside of the Capitol building. So they're there all the time. Or that's what I've been hearing. But okay, well, that's it for right now.